the Diocese of Leicester are all in. The Church of Scotland are closing churches. The safeguarding saga of the Church of England continues. There's other stories. It's Rev Dan's Roundup. Hi, welcome to the channel. My name's Rev Dan, and this is Rev Dan's Roundup, where I look at the Christian news coming out from around the world. Today we start off very local to us in the Church of England with the Leicester Diocese announcing the first of one of their new Minster Communities. And this is such a big story that it got into the Telegraph with their headline, "Anger Over Plan for Mega Parish with just 3 priests. Change in Leicester will bring 23 parishes under the Lord Minster, which some church members claim is unsustainable." Big news. So the first of these communities just launched consists of 8 benefices which have 24 parishes and 35 churches in them. And the big thing that's a bit controversial about this is that they're going to have 3, perhaps 4 ministers, and there's a huge expectation that the other churches will be lay-led. They're saying in the Church Times article here that it's a perfect storm of declining church attendance, reduced giving and stretched church leaders. And it means that they cannot in good conscience put their heads in the sand and hope that more of the same is the answer. But this is a huge thing, and this is a story that I'll be delving in deeper next Tuesday, so subscribe to the channel to make sure you don't miss that. Click the notification bell, and as soon as the video comes out you'll get notification of it. This is a big story because the whole of the Leicester Diocese is going this way, asking churches to join these Minster Communities. There is an opt-out if you want to, but a very clear message in the opt-out that if you opt out, you're not going to get the resources, and that is very much a bullying tactic. If you want to go your own way and not the way of the diocese, then we're going to not give you anything. So what choice do you have? Well, quite a choice actually. The power doesn't lie with the diocese. The power, as it used to be for hundreds of years, lies with the local church. And if the local church can afford to pay their way, then they should continue to do what they're going to do. Because what's going to happen to those bigger churches, if you join a Minster and where you lose your incumbent, they're asking for a lay-led people here who are incredibly busy anyway as the congregation are getting more elderly. These are very small churches in some areas. How are they expected to survive? And the sacrament of the communion is hugely important to them, and so PCCs are pushing back. But at their diocesan synod, as the elected members, 76% voted in favour of this. Don't know what was said in the debates around this, but there was 3/4 of the elected membership wanted this to happen. Is the writing on the wall? For me, this is not a good thing. You take away the minister, what you need to do is invest in clergy, frontline staff who are enabling people, but you have that central person. How they're going to do these services, and from what we're reading, they want the churches to actually give more money, and the PCCs are saying no. Will this be the way that the Church of England moves forward, or will it be an absolute disaster and the Diocese of Leicester are just going to collapse? We will have to wait and see. It's too early to tell, but people in the media and the Church Times are just pushing back. This is not the way the parish ministry in the Church of England is done. We're moving away from who we are. So going to the other option, the Church of Scotland is saying that churches will have to close. So instead of bringing churches together and getting lay people to minister in those churches, the Church of Scotland is saying people just aren't coming to church anymore. Pre-pandemic, they had 88,000 people going to church. Now they're getting 60,000 people are going to church. In this article on the BBC, again, getting into mainstream media. What's slightly confusing on this article on the BBC is 88,000 were going to worship pre-COVID, 60,000, as I said before, are going now. But 45,000, they're saying, are worshipping online. and 8,275 in other ways. So what they're saying is, in effect, COVID was a good thing because more people are now engaging with their services, because they've increased from 88,000 to 105,000, 16 church, 45. Just turn off the live stream, folks. Turn off the live stream. Get people into church. Say, we're not going to live stream our services, or we're going to pre-record our services, and they're going to come out in the afternoon, come into church, and try get those people into church. And obviously the people who can't worship will be able to watch it later. Yes, they won't watch it in the morning, but there'll still be a provision for them to watch it. But this is drastic. But again, this is reacting to dwindling numbers coming to church. And we also have to say this, I have to say this, that Church of Scotland has changed their doctrine on marriage and offer same-sex marriages in there. And of course, as I've done in a previous video, talk about decline, which denomination will go first. Churches that have gone down that more liberal route are losing people by the droves, the data says. So if the people aren't coming and you've got to sustain these churches, you're going to have to close them. So this is the way that the Church of Scotland going. They're closing them. The Church of England in the Diocese of Leicester are getting rid of the ministers. It's not good either way. So a Christian teacher who was urged to talk about his beliefs about marriage then is sacked the next day for hate speech. So this teacher, Ben Dubowski, was at a training session about diversity and inclusion and how to avoid offending pupils when he was asked to share his Christian beliefs about marriage. The next day he gets called in by the head and gets sacked because, well, you know, you can't share your Christian beliefs now, but you can talk about diversity and genders, and marriage can be, you can do all that liberal stuff, but you cannot hold a traditional orthodox view, and if you do, you're going to get punished for it. So he got sacked after being asked to share his Christian beliefs. This also goes into a video a couple of weeks ago that I talked about the indoctrination of our children with these woke ideas of gender, and saying you can be any gender that you want and any sexuality that you want. It's up to you, and not recognizing that as Christians we hold to the biblical belief that we're made in the image of God, both man and woman, and that marriage is between a man and a woman for life. We recognise also it doesn't always go right, but that's the ideal. Hold on to those beliefs. What will happen is this, which is awful. You get asked to share your beliefs, which adds to the conversation, and I can understand why they asked him, because it does add to the conversation. But to get sacked for it is an absolute joke. Now, question. If he was a Muslim and was asked to share, do you think he'd be sacked the next day? I do not think so. Again, this got into the mainstream media, and it is an attack on Christianity, which is continuing. But we must stand up for our beliefs. So carrying on the CofE Saga of safeguarding in the Church of England, again, another video that I covered, you can watch that here, is the Independent Safeguarding Board serves a dispute resolution notice to the Archbishop's Council. So the ISB is getting really frustrated with the Archbishop's Council, and they served this notice on Wednesday afternoon in a letter from 2 of the 3 IS board members, and in its contents we don't know what it says. It hasn't been made public, but they complain that the Archbishop's Council has repeatedly blocked their work, compromised their independence, and refused to listen to both them and their survivors, the survivors of abuse victims in the Church of England. They say that more than 70 survivors and survivor advocates have since objected to the appointment, and I covered this in the video of a lady called Miss Nunn, because she in the south is compromised. She was doing safeguarding in the Church of England. She's asked to come and lead this board, and then basically is investigating her own work. So how can she not be biased or make sure that everything comes out smelling of roses, unless she is truly independent and reports herself for something that she might have potentially done or was done under her tenure. So this is the continuing saga in the Church of England of safeguarding, and this is hitting the mainstream news as well. And we have to, as a church, sort this out. And this, you cannot get an independent board and then stop them from doing their work, from giving them computers or having access to people, or interviewing by putting someone who potentially is very biased in charge of this group. If we do not sort this out, the reputation of the Church of England, which is not good in the public domain, will be awful, and people will have to answer to this. It's a sorry saga that is continuing, and someone up high in the Church of England needs to take the bull by the horns and get this sorted. And a sad day for the Wippel Co company, maker of gowns, clergy gowns for graduation, who have announced that after 220 years, they've been going since 1789, that they're going to close their doors later this year. They say in part it was down to the COVID pandemics in universities not having graduation ceremonies, and so obviously people not ordering their gowns and things like that. But also you read in the article, it says in the UK it's a long-standing supplier to the Anglican Church, the Church of Scotland, United Reformed Church, Episcopal Church and Methodist Church, but also including denominations in US, Australia, Sweden and other countries as well. But as we just heard before, with getting rid of clergy and closing churches, and not as many ordinands coming through to train as vicars, and having less money, there are also less people to buy their products. They're in an industry where they're hand making these things that they're really great quality, but you're going to have cheaper gowns coming over from places probably like China, which are machine made, and with costs of living as well going up for clergy. When you're looking at replacements, some clergy will just go for the cheaper option, especially if they're not using them that much. A lot of evangelicals now are not using gowns, and so it is a sad story, a sad end after 220 years, but it's a reflection of where we are as churches. Those churches that I read just now are churches also gone liberal, and those churches are dying out as well. So Wippel Co will be the first, I'm sure. There will sadly be others which will follow. So one of the biggest stories in the Christian world is the death of Tim Keller. Last week on the 19th of May, 72, died of cancer. A real inspiration for so many people, a name that was well known. I read an article the other day that he said he didn't start writing books until he was 58, and the books that he have written have been absolutely amazing. One of the books, The Reason for God, really helped me in my faith becoming a Christian, and I know it's helped so many others. When I was at theological college, he was in Oxford. I didn't get to see him. He was on one of those missions and stuff, but there was such an excitement around because you had this great pastor, this theologian, this evangelist. And yes, we shouldn't hold these people as celebrity, get them in that Christian celebrity culture, which is failing quite spectacularly at the moment. But I think with Tim Keller, it wasn't ever about celebrity. It was about respect of this man who was, like I said, not just a pastor, but a theologian, evangelist. He was a great person and a great writer of books as well, which will help so many people. He has passed into glory. The Christian world mourns because this man will be a loss, but he's done his work on earth. He's now being rewarded in heaven, and may his influence and what he has done, those words that he wrote in those books and those sermons that he gave that are around the world, may they forever bring many, many more people to faith. And let's thank God for the life of Tim Keller, that he came to know God, that like each of us, he repented of his sins and came to know Jesus, and through the Holy Spirit had this great ministry which he honoured by giving his life over to do what God called him to do. A sad loss for the Christian world, but a great glory that he is in heaven. So let's finish with some good news. You know, the news around can be quite oof, but here's some great news. Thanks to God, the headline Christian Missionary released after 7 years in captivity in Burkina Faso. So there's an Australian surgeon, and he's 88. So he's out there. He's 81 when he gets kidnapped, and he finally gets set free. His wife had been set free before. He was out there doing charitable missionary work when he was abducted in 2016, and then through negotiations he gets released and now can live out his final days with his family. And we thank God for that, because he was captured by Muslims, Al-Qaeda, and his life was spared, and I'm sure under captivity he was praying for his captives, and hopefully he'll be able to speak to some of them. And but now, thank God that he's back, that he can be with his family and friends for those remaining years. And you know, if he's out there at 81, God bless him. So comment on any of the stories below. There's a lot going on in the Christian world. There's a lot going on in the world that I can comment from a Christian perspective. If you've got any news stories out there, put them in the comments, point me towards them. And join me next week on Tuesday as I look at the Diocese of Leicester's decision for Minster Communities. Will it be an amazing God-given success, or will it be catastrophic for the diocese? And it's bye-bye to them. Well, it's bye-bye from me now. See you next week. Bye.